Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, distinguished guests, and folks of all stripes, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston sports podcast for diehard Houston sports fans from a diehard Houston sports fan. I'm Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite diehard Astros fan podcaster. I am a Texan, I am a writer, I am a dog dad and creative multi-hyphenate. Of course, I'm a Houston native and I have the receipts to prove it. I once stayed at a Pappadeaux's for the entire time it was open. I just stayed there and ate nonstop. I ate as many platters of seafood as I could. Folks, I've spent the last decade or so as a comedy writer in LA, and now I am podcasting. Yes, that's what happens once you hit 10 years out here. You just start to accept LAX as some kind of acceptable experience, and the mayor of LA gives you a podcast. Welcome to said podcast. This is what my brother calls the Paul Broad Podball blog. Hey, brother, please check out spacecadetsports.substack.com for the full blog experience, or the full blog experience, whatever way you want to look at it. You know, I started Space Cadet Sports as a passion project because most media is infuriating as a diehard long-term fan of the Houston Astros. But here we try not to be doom and gloom fans, or worse, national media haters. We try to talk about our teams without too much homerism. Keyword, try. We're recording this transmission here in sunny LA. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and co-producer, the Roz to my Fraser. Carla, the dog, is here with me, and long-term listeners of the podcast know she may get on mic from time to time. She's the one that has the hot takes. Today, we have a guest, Joe Jacobs, on the show, and Tuve joins us as well. Let's get to the episode. All right, folks, welcome back to the podcast. Today, I am very excited to have our first ever guest, our first ever official guest on the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. I have been wanting to make this happen for quite some time. I have been wanting to get this guy on the horn to talk sports for quite some time. This is one of my favorite people in the world, hands down. So if you come for him, you're coming for me. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear anybody coming from my guy Joe here. But Joe's my stepdad and is a father figure to me. I love him so much. He seriously his love for my mom was the reason why I knew that he'd be great for the family. But once he was part of the family, his love and care for my brothers and for me and for my family as well just shows what a generous heart he has, what an amazing man he is. And it's truly in this world where we're always talking about masculinity and what it means to be a man. This is what it means to be a man, is being giving of yourself and helping others. Joe Jacobs is an amazing example of that. But more importantly for this podcast, he is a huge Houston sports fan. He's also a big UT guy. He went to college at a University of Texas, so of course he bleeds orange as well, not just for Houston Astros baseball, but that burnt orange for his beloved alma mater, University of Texas. Joe is an amazing architect, an amazing stepfather, an amazing man all around. We're lucky to have him on the podcast to talk some Houston sports with us. Joe, thanks for joining the podcast, man.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for not opening up with a bunch of smack. That was very encouraging.
Yeah, I thought it would be best for us to let everybody know off the bat that it's not going to be a lot of smack today.
That's funny.
But no.
You said I was a UT fan too, but come on, man.
Yeah.
That's Mr. P. That's our Jack Russell Chihuahua.
Yeah.
He's always wants to be on the phone with me.
Yeah, he's one of your best employees.
Yeah, he is. He really is.
Yeah.
He's also my hungriest employee.
I was
going to tell you something about little known fact about about the whole UT thing. Growing up, we started out in California, and then we moved to southern Oklahoma, which my mom was from.
Mm-hmm.
Then we moved to Texas, and I played baseball in Texas, and my nickname was actually Okie because I had moved from Oklahoma. And then, which was funny. Then I moved back when Mom was in anesthesia school, and we lived with my aunt and uncle in another small town in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a huge Oklahoma fan at the time because I liked Jack Mildren and Joe Washington and those guys. That's back when they had the game of the century with Joe Washington in Oklahoma and Johnny Rodgers on Nebraska. And so until I was about 13 or 14, I was an Oklahoma fan.
That's wild, Joe.
But I finally came to my senses, and we moved. I was in Texas for most of my life after that. So it was then obviously got the chance to go to the University of Texas in Austin, and that kind of sealed the deal.
Of course it did, yeah. Now I'm sorry you had to spend that much time in Oklahoma. Of course, as a Texan, I have to say that, but but we're glad you of course came to your senses. You became a UT fan.
Yeah, and the funny thing, Oklahoma, that's all they had was OU. That was it.
Yeah, I mean now they have maybe the Oklahoma City Thunder, but that's kind of it. It's not. There's not a lot over there.
No.
Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of Oklahomans, they're huge OU fans, yeah, because there's just a drought of other things to support. Or, I like to, I said we weren't going to do too much smack talk, but, it's hard not to smack talk Oklahoma. I'm sure there's not a lot to do there, so of course they're going to be huge Oklahoma fans, that's without a doubt.
Yeah, this is just piling on because they're just not doing that well.
Yeah, it's been a tough season for them. I feel like, we at first we were going to maybe talk after the Red River Shootout, but, how have you been feeling about UT this season?
I've been super excited about it. I like their coach a lot. I got to hear him speak in Houston when he first came. I think he's calm, collected, and he's got a really good plan. I think, I don't think he's where he wants to be yet.
Right.
He just he's trying to bring all the big guys in. That's kind of his main deal. He's bringing the beef. He's got, he's increased the size of his offensive line, like average of 20 pounds.
Yeah.
And the same on the defense, and they're just fast as all get out. So I don't think they've really performed that well the last couple of weeks. But I think it was interesting that after they beat Vanderbilt, they dropped.
Yeah.
And Ohio State didn't drop after almost losing. It was I thought that was very kind of strange because Vanderbilt has played Georgia and Alabama and all these schools extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, if it wasn't for turnovers and stuff, most of the stuff that happens to us seems to be self-inflicted penalties and stuff like that. So
definitely,
we got to get that stuff turned around. But overall, excited about them. I hope that they can run it out to the end of the year and play A&M the last game of the season for all the marbles.
Yeah. I thought it was weird. Yeah, I'm looking at the AP poll right now, Joe. They're currently sitting 6th. That's behind a couple spots behind Ohio State here. I love football, but the whole ranking and BCS, all the college football stuff is so complicated and convoluted, man.
Yeah, It's all about just gaining clicks, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean it. I don't think there's going to ever be a perfect collegiate system because there are so many teams. It's kind of hard to parse out, whether you go just with journalists or you go fully with kind of statistics. I feel like either way is going to be wrong. So
yeah,
this kind of mixed bag is kind of our best solution, like the best thing we could do, I guess. But it's that whole kind of them dropping rankings didn't make much sense to me at all. But hopefully they, like you're saying, that I do like that you talked about bringing the beef. You need that weight on an offensive line. I forgot, I was listening to a podcast the other day. Offensive lineman for the Texans, Juice Scruggs, was talking about how much weight he loses, per game, how much he sweats away, and it's just like, it's something you don't think about too much. But yeah, you want those big boys up front to have a lot of weight on them for all these long games and long practices they're having. It's a long season.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very long season. They could drop a lot of weight.
And the other thing that's going on there is this whole quarterback situation. I mean, Quentin Ewers is a good quarterback, and I think the offensive line needs to pick it up a little bit. And I think Sark's doing the right thing with keeping him the starter, and Manning's going to be here for 3 more years, and he'll start for 3 years, stays healthy. So I don't disagree with any of that. I don't think there's a controversy. I just think it's good to have a guy as good as him in the backup role.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, like where, with me on a podcast, hosting a podcast, there's a lot of people out there with opinions. When you have a young quarterback backing up anybody, people are going to be, banging pots and pans for the younger gun. That's just kind of how football always is. But I agree. There's plenty of time for this other guy. I don't think it's a controversy. They're going with the way they're going. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Sims and was it Major Applewhite? That was Major Applewhite was the quarterback, and Chris Sims was his backup for a bit. Yeah.
But didn't he eventually transfer somewhere?
I think he did. I'm trying to remember.
I think SMU or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah, I do remember. I'm like, yeah, there are times with a team like Texas, you're going to have some QBs on there that people were very excited about, for sure, But yeah, I'm always of the notion of you let the more experienced person take the lead. There's time for the younger people to learn the system,
The other thing that Sark's doing really well is he's recruiting like mad. Like, there's a story about it. I guess it was recently that there's a kid down in Galveston, a running back, and I guess right before the game or during the game, this helicopter landed, and it was Sarkisian. He got out, and he was on the sidelines, and this kid took a kickoff and ran it back.
Wow.
And as he was running by, he pointed at Sarkisian.
This is what you came for. Yeah. That's
committed already.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a good one, man. I hope he committed, and hope that was a good day for that young man. That sounds like a story you'd tell for the rest of your life, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
And no one's ever come to one of my comedy shows in a helicopter. I can tell you that.
No.
Not yet. One you can dream. No. It could still happen.
Yeah, it could happen. So we play Florida this week, and I don't really know what to think about that. I mean, I think we should win. Yeah. I hope we win by a lot. I think we need style points.
Yeah, I think so too. You always want a couple of those games where you just kind of blow them out, and you don't want them to always just be the kind of the weaker points of your schedule. So yeah, hopefully they can have a nice lopsided game, kind of gain some traction here. But yeah, Florida, to be honest, I really don't know how Florida has been doing this season. I stick to I follow a lot of things like you do, but usually it's, UH, UT, and outside of that, I kind of watch whatever's on Sports Center, whatever kind of, YouTube clips for, the week that I can get. I watch a lot more on YouTube nowadays compared to Sports Center. Growing up, I would always watch, Sports Center, but now I watch a lot of different things on YouTube. Do you still check in with Sports Center, or do you have other ways to?
I check in mostly for scores, and I'll watch like certain games that are on TV. I'll watch the little game cast.
Yeah.
when I'm watching something else. But yeah, Florida's like 4-3, 2-2, so they're not doing horrible, but
Right.
that's bad for them.
Yeah, it's bad for
The game
them.
that really worries me is Arkansas. Arkansas has seemed to kind of pick it up a little bit. They've got a very strong offense.
Yeah,
Good young quarterback, I believe. So
that's on.
they're a bit scary. I can't remember. I think we played them.
I'm seeing
we
it.
played them in Austin. Let me see. I'll tell you.
That's November 16th.
Yeah, we play them in Austin.
Yeah. Well, that's good. You have the home field advantage going for it, if nothing else. Then you got Kentucky, and you finished with A&M. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's always the Matthew McConaughey factor, you know? You gotta always factor that in.
Yeah, always. Look, if Matthew McConaughey is around, there's going to be a little extra magic always, for sure. I love that he's such a huge fan of the team. I love that he's there. He's a great, outside of Bevo, he's a great mascot, for sure.
That's funny. That's about right.
I think he would.
Mascot / motivational speaker. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. I'd like to think Matthew McConaughey would like that joke. Of course, I'm not trying to smack talk McConaughey too much. He's a very wealthy man, and I hope he buys my jokes one day or something like that. I want to work with him. I don't want to be insulting him too much out here.
He's a Texan, man. He's from Uvalde. He's not far from Austin. So
he's out there.
You know, yeah.
But I love that, and I love, I love that the season's ending with the A&M game. I know, you have some family members that are A&M fans, and there's always a fierce rivalry between Texas and A&M. Do you have any bets running this season?
No, we don't really bet on this stuff. I don't really want any family drama.
Yeah, no, that's for the best. It's not good to stoke the fire or anything like that. But I think, out here in LA, it's more combative for me. Almost everybody I talk to is angry about me for my fandom. So I always have a couple
don't get me started on that. But
yeah, no, we won't get into it.
Actually, I root for A&M when they're not playing Texas. I like their new coach.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients are from A&M. One of them gives me Rockets tickets all the time, which are really good seats. So I'm not going to rag on him.
Right. No, of course. You got a lot of Aggies in your life that are really good people. That's for sure.
But I will tell you a story. Whenever David and his wife Mary took us to the A&M Texas game a few years back, and it was your mom's first college football game ever.
Oh, wow.
And it was in College Station, and so, you see all the pomp and the circumstances and all that stuff. And you're just like, it's just kind of overwhelming if you're new.
Yeah.
And so David leans over, and I think A&M scored the first touchdown. And David leans over and kisses Mary.
Mm-hmm. And
then he elbows Angie because he's sitting next to her and said, "Hey, look, I every time we score a touchdown, we get to kiss our wives."
Yeah.
And Angie was like, "What? That's weird." and she kind of so she didn't say much for a while. The next thing, she leaned over and kissed me, and she said, "Hey, David, watch this. I can kiss my husband anytime. I don't have to wait." And he got mad. And then I think we ended up winning like 40-12 or something like that. And,
wow!
So there was a lot more kissing on our side.
Yeah, it was a better day. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's
that was
funny.
A pretty good first game for someone to go to anyway.
Yeah, no, obviously going to College Station, that's an environment, but also, yeah, like getting to win. It's tough. It's tough when you go out to the game and you can't pick up the W. It's still fun, but yeah, it's a little tougher. So I'm glad she was there to give them a little bit of shade and to catch that victory, man. But yeah,
actually going to games is kind of a big deal these days. It just takes a lot. It takes all day.
It really is. It's a huge. I think just it's not just like the older you get. There's just more things to do at the game now. There's everything just seems a little bigger, and there's more more lines to get through, or it just is a little more tiring for sure.
The only place that I'm really kind of excited about going is when the Texans play in Vegas next. I'd like to go to that game.
That would be a great game to go to because yeah, I don't. Have you been to any sports in Vegas yet, Joe?
No, I've just driven by the stadium a couple times. We thought about it, but we haven't gone yet.
Well, yeah.
But,
when you go, we need you back on the podcast to talk about it for sure. That's going to be fun.
Maybe what we should do is you guys should meet us there. We'll just have the podcast live.
Live podcast, yeah. I'll set up the iPad in the game. I'll bring it with me. No, honestly, yeah. A game in Vegas would be a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm really curious as to how much in stadium gambling they promote.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. I know you can gamble in the airport. That's funny, but
yeah,
I don't know about it in the stadium.
I know. I mean, it sounds hilarious. But I really think that's where we're headed. Like you'll soon be at a Texans game, and you're in your seat, and you could pick up a little pin pad that says over under C.J. Stroud 3 completions on this drive.
Oh, no, you can bet on everything. You can bet on whether or not they have a hangnail. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, so these prop bets are nuts. Joe, did you hear about this? Was a couple seasons ago, I think, but maybe it was last Super Bowl. But somebody took out a bet because there was a huge odds against a streaker happening at the Super Bowl. So somebody bet there would be a streaker at the Super Bowl. Then they went and they themselves were the streaker at the Super Bowl. And when they paid their bell, they collected their winnings.
No, that's brilliant.
It's kind of genius when he's like, the odds were so far against there being a streaker, I'll just go do it and I'll use my winnings to pay the bail.
Oh, that's hysterical.
I'm sure the bail was very high, though. Like, that's got to be a lot of money.
I doubt it. I doubt it was that high. It depends on his past criminal record, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. If it's your first offense, you get away with it, you collect more of the winnings. But I thought that was crazy.
To come up with some sort of scheme like that now. You got me thinking.
Yeah, we gotta figure out what we could do with some of these crazy bets to make some money back.
Though I like going to the sports books in Vegas, even though I don't bet that much. I just like sitting there watching everybody.
Yeah.
Watching all the games at the same time and watching everybody get excited or whatever. It's just a fun environment.
Yeah, I like to. I haven't. I maybe put one sports bet like in Vegas one time, but yeah, I like being in the sports book because it is a lot of fun. It's a good vibe.
Yeah, it's cool.
But yeah, well, we'll definitely, if that happens, we'll definitely chat about it on the podcast and let people know. But looking at Texas here, their last 4 games, I think they're pretty good, well set up, man. Like I feel pretty good. We're feeling optimistic about them.
Who?
Texas.
UT?
Yeah, UT.
Did you see the A&M quarterback that came in and scored 5 out of 5 times, 4 touchdowns and a field goal?
Yeah, I saw that on social media. Yeah.
Oh my God, this kid was amazing.
Yeah, that was wild, man. It's college football can be such a crazy individual performances happen in college all the time, but that was wild. That was nuts.
Yeah, but now now that Texas in the Southeast Conference, I'm paying attention to a lot more schools I never even thought about.
Yeah, it's very weird. Just like you Google them and you see Texas Southeast Conference. It's like, what is that? It's all the conferences realignment is throwing me for a loop. But you get to catch new teams and different football. It can kind of be fun. To break from tradition a little bit.
Yeah, I thought it'd be fun to go to a Vanderbilt game, but then I just thought it'd be so crowded down in Nashville and down the main street.
Yeah,
it would be too much.
Yeah, it
because I think there was more Texas fans than there were Vanderbilt fans. Sure.
that can happen a lot. UT has a good fan base that travels, so I could see that maybe happening. Yeah, it'd be a good game to go to. But to kind of pivot a little bit here to go to, Texas, definitely we feel optimistic about them. We'll check in with them as the season goes. It's but you also, you've traveled to catch some Texans games too. You talked about wanting to go to Vegas, but you one of the toughest travel games for you, I would say, is you went up to New England once to catch a Pats Texans game.
Yeah.
And we finally got a win in New England as Texans fans, Joe. This season we finally won in New England.
I know, it was crazy. That's whenever Osweiler was the quarterback.
Right, Brock Osweiler.
And it was a fun trip, but I will say I probably don't ever want to go back to that stadium again.
It's rough.
First, the parking was horrible. It was like in a mud hole. and then the fans were just abusing us all the way in. Yeah. And I lived in Boston in the late 80s, early 90s, and
right.
So I knew the area. I knew it wasn't going to be all that nice, but
yeah,
I wouldn't take a kid to one of those games.
No.
I told my wife that there's more F-bombs in that stadium per square foot than anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, I would say that that's the F-bomb capital of the world. New England Patriots football game. Right before they cut off beer service is right when it's the worst.
And they're sore losers too.
Oh yeah, no, they really are. Boston fans can be really rough, and they're going to be miserable almost win or lose, I feel like. They're pretty miserable, man. So that was a tough one. And yeah, I think it's wild that you had such a bad parking experience and stadium experience on top of it. So it's nice to kind of be able to win one in New England, but also this Texans team this season is incredible. Well, at least the most incredible team that we've got to witness as Texans fans. How are you feeling about this team? A lot of people are talking, not just playoffs, but a lot of people keep talking about Super Bowl aspirations. Are you feeling that high on them, or are you a little more tapered in this season?
I'm going to wait and see when they play Baltimore. Though Cleveland beat Baltimore yesterday.
Right.
And some of these other teams, they've got a pretty tough schedule from here out. They play Detroit here.
Yeah.
And Detroit's annihilating people.
Detroit looks scary, yeah.
But I'm, I guess, cautiously optimistic. I think, to be honest, we've been doing really well, but we're playing close games, and I think we're underperforming.
I'm with you. I completely agree.
The games are just too close, and we're just not the red zone offense is not where, and the offensive line has had 30,000 penalties or something.
It's insane. Yeah,
cancels had 20,000 of them.
Yeah, it's really been bad. Out the gate, we really could not stop getting offensive line penalties, false starts. Tunsil was really out of sync with the rest of the line, and it was obvious that he was out of sync with the rest of the line. It's infuriating when you have such a good offense and your offensive line is not only underperforming but having severe penalty issues.
And I think the play calling, particularly yesterday, was a little irritating because it was so conservative in the way they were running the ball. Just running. And Nixon's awesome. Nixon is awesome, but
yeah,
I'm thinking if they're getting a pass rush on you like that, you need to roll Stroud out and do some bootlegs and get him out in space so that he can have some options, not just because he's a short guy. So
yeah,
he's going to get passes knocked down if there's a lot of people in the pocket.
Right.
So I like what they do with Baker Mayfield. He gets out in space.
Yeah, out in Tampa.
And who else did it? Some of the other teams like Washington did.
Yeah, with their new quarterback. Yeah, I think that Washington offense, is crazy good right now. It's like, almost not St. Louis Rams, greatest show on turf good, but kind of wild. And yeah, it stinks to know that this team has so much talent, but they're really struggling with creative play calling and protecting Stroud. I don't know. I think I like the commitment to the run. I love Joe Mixon, but it just seems a little too stubbornly committed to the run sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I like the offensive coordinator. Sometimes you wonder, okay, does he just feel like we can make it through this game doing this, and we're going to break that out in a more important game?
Right, saving it for later.
You just wonder. But I mean, I think Stroud will be very effective if they get him out on the edges some.
Yeah,
because he can throw on the move. He's extremely accurate.
He moves very well. He's not really. He was more of a presented as a pocket passer, but when he's in motion, when he's kind of breaking loose, you don't worry about him. You feel confident that he could find a target.
Yeah, he's cool as a cucumber, man.
I love Stroud. Stroud is honestly so easy to root for. Such a fun player to watch. I am so excited to have him on the team. We haven't had the best luck with quarterbacks, whether they just were mediocre or just straight up embroiled in scandal. It's nice to have a guy that we can root for.
Yeah,
it feels good.
He's set the bar really high for himself last year. So
yeah,
he's got to and it's not all his fault. I mean, but he's going to have to start getting rid of the ball sooner.
Yeah,
if they're not going to protect the way they should.
Yeah, I think I would like to see a lot more, maybe like a Tank Dell bubble screen, or just kind of have some quicker hitch options for him every now and then. Just have something available for him, whether it's a running back, just curling, right after the line of scrimmage, or a little hitch from your third wide receiver. We also have we have so many wide receivers and so many weapons. We also have so many injuries, Joe. That's also part of it. I didn't
hear anything on who got hurt yesterday? What was his name?
Stephon Diggs.
I haven't heard anything on his injury report.
I haven't this morning. I think it's still. I think they're saying they're gonna do imaging. For knee injury. Yeah, still evaluating knee injury from 48 minutes ago is what I'm seeing.
Okay.
So, I'm hopeful, but man, yeah, Diggs has been really effective for us this season. I'm not trying to downplay how great he's been, but I feel like he's been more of a team captain than he has been super effective on the field. He's almost been like a decoy more than anything. But obviously, without Nico Collins and without Stephon Diggs, it'd be a really tough hit to our receiving core if we didn't have Diggs or Collins for a while.
Yeah, Nico is he was leading the league even after he was injured for a while.
I was thinking he was going to, have an incredible breakout season where people were talking about him being the best receiver in the league.
Well, they were.
Yeah, they were until he got injured. But I really thought that this was going to be the year where he gets all pro maybe, or a lot of honors for his play. But hopefully he'll come back from injury and just pick up where he left off, because
They're predicting he'll come back against Detroit.
Yeah, we're gonna need him. Yeah. But yeah, I loved Collins this season. He just looked. He's a big target out there. He's so tough. He's so talented. I'm like, man, I'm so happy this guy's on our team. But
yeah, I like their coaching staff a lot. I like the head coach. What is his name?
D'Amico Ryans. Yeah.
D'Amico Ryans. Wow. He's a great guy in general, and then he's a good coach. I mean, he's learning. He's made a few little mistakes on game management stuff, but I think the players love him.
Mm-hmm.
He's just all around general nice guy. I had a friend come over today to drop something off, and he works for NRG and the Texans, and he does all the sound and stuff for the refs and the coaches and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that I guess the younger players were complaining that their speakers weren't that good and back where I guess in their part of the locker room. So Lorenzo went back there and fixed them, and he said the coach saw him, D'Amico saw him, I guess yesterday or something, and had a couple hats for him. Just thoughtful.
Yeah, he seems like such a great guy, D'Amico Ryans. I mean, Lorenzo obviously is, but head coach D'Amico Ryans, I listen to his interview every week now because he's actually such a great communicator. I feel very optimistic about our team, because he seems like an amazing motivator. The players love and respect him. And when he talks about the game, he's just honest and he owns his mistakes and he just talks about, the reality of the situation. He doesn't make a lot of excuses. He's just passionate about football and you could tell he really cares.
Yeah, he's I think he's doing great.
Yeah, I really go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say I hope he sticks for a while. I think he will.
I hope so. Yeah, this is the type of guy you want with your organization for as long as you can make that relationship work. And I think Cal McNair, now that he's the head, the main owner of the team, I think his thing is to try to mend some of the harsher relationships that existed between the ownership and other players in the past. So I think Cal McNair has really been trying to work on improving those player-owner relationships, and I think D'Amico sees that and is it's like, this is how you build. This is great because this builds culture here and will make players want to stick around longer. Yeah,
I think they inducted Andre Johnson in the Texans Hall of Fame yesterday. I guess they put him up because he's the first Texan to go into the Hall of Fame.
I was so happy to see that. Obviously, it's a really young team, the Houston Texans, but having just so many years of watching Andre Johnson play amazing football for, we love the Texans, but for most of those years, they were bad to mediocre teams, and he was amazing and just so classy, I'm so glad he's our representative in the Hall of Fame now.
So I got another mom story. So
please, go for it.
Mom and I went to this fundraiser at the Breakfast Club, and Andre was one of the door prize things you could bid for. He was like dinner with Andre.
Yeah,
and so we're all there, and I'm talking. I don't know who I was talking to, but I looked across the room, and there was your mom, just her and Andre, just having this long conversation. I think their mom was doing most of the talking, and and I just stood there and watched for a while, and she had no idea who he was.
Right. Just talking to a nice guy.
She just thought he was a lonely guy and needed someone to talk to because no one else was talking to him. And so she went and asked. She was talking to him about where he's from, what he did for a living, where's his mom. I mean, she's talking to him about normal stuff, and I think he was just loving it.
Yeah.
And people around the room were just staring. Like, who is this person talking to him? But so finally I went over there and said hi, and she just kept going. But it was it was fun.
I love that. That's one of my favorite mom stories. She talked to Andre Johnson, and it was a great conversation. And everyone in the room was like, "You're talking to arguably the best wide receiver in the history of our organization. Like, this guy's, one of the best ever. Like, he's." And my mom's just like, "He looked lonely."
Yeah, that's exactly right. Could have been her Uber driver as far as she was concerned.
Mom is a wonderful, loving person who will just go up and start a conversation with anybody. So I love that she did it with Andre Johnson. But it
was cool.
We actually, we've been very fortunate to have some run-ins with some Houston sports Hall of Famers, if you will. Houston, it's a very big city, but at times it seems like it's a very chill community because you can kind of run into people still. You have run-ins with athletes.
Yeah, and people aren't as starstruck here.
No.
They pretty much just leave them alone.
Laid back. Yeah. Live and let live.
Bagwell comes to our Starbucks. Used to come to our Starbucks all the time, and he'd just talk to you and sit and talk to you in line like no big deal.
Yeah, I've seen Baggy at that Starbucks. But yeah,
I was going to mention that I was excited to see, because I really thought he got a raw deal here with Bill O'Brien, but DeAndre Hopkins, I was excited to see him traded to the Chiefs.
Me too. Yeah.
Because, I mean, he's a good player, and he should still be here.
He really should.
And so, I mean, he had like 4 receptions yesterday. He did well.
Yeah, I love DeAndre Hopkins. He could have stuck around and gave Andre Johnson's numbers a run for their money, perhaps, but like I was saying, just different ownership, kind of at the time, different philosophies for, I love the new GM, Nick Caserio, and a lot of the things they're trying to do now, they're more in line with the team that I'm hoping they can build. But to see Hopkins, who I was hoping could be a lifelong Texan, find some extra life in his career this late, I think is great. I think it actually does good to pair up Mahomes' skills with Hopkins' skills, because Hopkins, you don't have to throw the ball straight at him. You could throw the ball near him and he'll get it.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal athlete.
And Mahomes, as much as we all praise him and love him, he's not exactly the most accurate guy at times. And he's been struggling. I mean, I'd say he's been struggling to have consistent receivers almost always.
He just takes what he's got and goes with it.
Yeah, so I feel like this could be a great combination for Chiefs fans for sure. And while there are AFC rivals, you gotta love D-Hop, and I hope he does well there. It would be nice to see him make a run for it here.
Yeah, we played the Chiefs soon too. We played them, Baltimore and Detroit.
Yeah. This Texan schedule is not nice. The last season we had such a kind schedule. But this season, this schedule's tough, man. How do you feel?
We made the playoffs, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do you feel about you were saying, and I'm with you. I don't. All these people that are saying Super Bowl, of course, I want that. Don't get me wrong, but this team has some sharpening up to do, especially with all these injuries, especially with the way the schedule is ending. But being in the AFC South helps a lot, So I do think the division helps, but I'd be happy with this team just making the playoffs and trying to go on a playoff run. That would be, for me, I find that to be acceptable. If we can just get a playoff run going, or try to get a playoff run going this season, I'd be happy. I don't think it's Super Bowl or bust,
Yeah, I think it's all about the details for this team. If they can get these details under control, the penalties and the blocking, I think they'll. It's interesting. Their run blocking has actually been very good.
Yeah, it's so wild how it's like a tale of two cities, right? Their run blocking is fantastic, but their pass blocking is very shoddy. And I think it's this zone blocking that they're doing. I think a lot of times, you see the tackle or the guard take a block, and then the other pairing of the two misreads that and goes to the wrong side of them, or doesn't. It just seems like the zone blocking isn't working at times, or the communication is lacking. I don't quite know, and I obviously never played offensive line, so it's not like I know from experience, but it looks like the communication's lacking for pass blocking.
That pitch out yesterday to Mixon, where the ball was fumbled, about gave me a heart attack.
Yeah, that was. Oh man,
I couldn't believe it.
I think I tried to block that out of my memory. Yeah, that was tough. But even though we barely We barely got by the Colts, but I'll take it as a win. I think it was a bit of a trap game for us. So I'm glad that they got the win. But we have to bounce back. We have Thursday night football coming up. We have a Halloween night game. That's kind of wild.
In New York City, yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, how do you feel about this game?
I would love to beat Aaron Rodgers. He's not one of my favorite guys in the league.
Yeah, he's not. Hilariously, he's nobody's favorite guy in the league anymore.
I don't think he's anybody's. Yeah, I agree with that.
Nobody likes this dude.
There's something about him. He's not easy to like. I'll just say that.
I think it's his. When you have that kind of larger than life persona, when you kind of are a little bit of a know-it-all, I would say a little bit of a know-it-all, it doesn't rub people the right way. So I think it's a little bit of that. And also he has a lot of money. When I have a podcast, I can come out here and it's more than fine because I'm kind of I'm not a celebrity or a big guy, but if you're a celebrity and you have a podcast and you're constantly being a know-it-all and giving your opinions out there, you're opening yourself up for attack. And then if you're not being apologetic about anything, it could be a sticky situation. And I don't think he's navigating it. I don't think he has like a publicist or media people that are trying to help him, essentially.
Yeah.
Whoever's in his corner.
Going back to the game on Sunday, I was watching Joe Flacco on the sidelines. He didn't look too happy.
Yeah. No, Flacco did not look too happy. But yeah, I think this. On top of the Jets being a mess because of their quarterback situation, they fired their coach. The whole team looks just absolutely a mess. I really hope they win this game and they're not kind of caught with their pants down or anything like that because it's a Thursday game. I hope they're healthy. I think that might have a lot to do with it, I think
it'll be fun. It'll be a good game to watch.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I think my only thing is I don't want it to be too frustrating where the Jets are kind of hanging with us a bit because they've just looked so terrible and because obviously I don't like them. When it's a team that you don't like, it's a little harder to play them,
Because didn't the Patriots beat them yesterday?
Yeah. The Patriots beat them and they're almost in an open revolution against their coach and the team and they got beat.
That's so embarrassing.
Yeah, when the Patriots can beat you, it's pretty bad. It's like almost as bad.
The thing, I guess, for those New York people is they got the Yankees in the series, even though they're not doing that well either. Yeah, no, it's been tough, man. Like this World Series has not been fun for me. It's a nightmare. With all these Dodger fans out here. We went to a Halloween party. Sarah and I went to a Halloween party on Saturday. And of course, the craziest baseball person found me and immediately got into the biggest argument with me over all the silliest things that you can imagine, But at the end of it all, he kept bringing it up and kept talking about it. And I kept trying to change the topic of conversation because I know nobody wants to hear an Astros and a Dodger fan just yell at each other all night, so I'm trying to not change the conversation for the party's sake, But at the end of it all, I finally told him, I put my hand on his shoulder and I was like, hey, man, like I have a podcast. Why don't you just come onto my podcast and you can argue with me about it there, And he was like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. You'll just make a fool out of me. Because I probably would have said you don't really need me to do that.
Yeah, no, I was like, truly, you don't need my help, but
yeah.
But I do think the World Series has not been a fun experience, but the Dodgers are definitely heavy favorites in it. I think no matter who wins, we lose as Astros fans a bit, but if the Yankees lose, then they're just going to keep crying and crying and crying about how the Astros, if it wasn't for the Astros, we would be a whole lot better. Did you hear Brian Cashman?
Yeah.
Oh, man. He can't stop crying about it. I don't.
I kind of went back and forth on who I was going to root for. Not that I really care,
Right.
but the only reason I was hoping the Yankees would win is I just like the Dodgers more.
Yeah, I dislike the Dodgers and the Dodgers fans a whole lot more. There's no arguing that, that's for sure.
And you expect New York fans to be rude.
Yeah, no,
that's just kind of like part of the deal.
Yeah, almost part of the whole thing. I have a Yankees fan friend in comedy that we text each other a lot, and it's very aggressive, but it's always done out of love. It's because he wants to talk baseball, so he's just kind of, that's just the tone he takes. You kind of have to just, once you know that, you're just like, this is just how the tone he takes when he talks baseball. So I for his sake, I was, I know it's been a while, so we'll root for you, because also if the Dodgers lose, it's less fireworks here. I hate when the fireworks are going off all night.
Messes with your dog, right?
We're both angry. Yeah.
You and Carla both, huh?
Yeah, we both. There was one time I was like, I'm just gonna go out there and talk to the kids and tell them to stop with the fireworks. And Sarah's like, please don't go out there. So, but we
be like the grumpy old man.
Yeah, I'm the Clint Eastwood of this neighborhood. Yeah. But yeah, going on to more about baseball here. Sadly, well, not sadly. It's something that a lot of my Dodger friends that I could actually talk to about baseball. They're teasing me, being like, you didn't do too good in the playoffs this year. And I was like, yeah, this must be what it feels like to be a Dodgers fan, just always going to the playoff and leaving so early. No wonder you're angry all the time, But I was like, it's good. It's good because it keeps me humble, Joe. After 7 years of excellence, I need something to keep me humble, to keep me ambitious, to make sure I still have goals and I don't just accept excellence.
Overall, it was a tough year, right?
It was such a tough year.
It was a good year too, because they overcame a lot. They started out like 19 and 40 or something. They were
it was really bad.
And then they switched around. And the fact that some of their major players, Tucker and Jordan and Tuve, all of them were hurt at one point.
It was
and their pitchers were like, I don't know what they were doing, but they were all hurt. One's making coffee.
Yeah, we had 5 guys on the IL almost all season long. We had a full starting rotation on the IL.
I know. And Joe Espada's first season, I thought he did great. I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned about Dana Brown. I think this kind of being his second or third year, I think he's trying to put more of a stamp on the team now that he's kind of feeling himself a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing yet.
Yeah, I think I'm always wary when people are really trying to push their ego or agenda a little too hard. Whether it's in business or sports business, it's like it's a collaborative effort. We want to make sure we're listening to all voices, But for me, I'll get to Dana Brown in a second. I'll start with the positive things you were saying. Definitely, I think something that we're not talking about enough is that this could have been the season where the Astros' quote-unquote golden era ends. They could have packed it up. They could have given up and just taken it easy and being like, you can't win them all. But Joe Espada really managed and fought with them to see this fight through and see the season through, and they ended up catching the Mariners and winning the division. I think this is huge, and I think you need to give the organization, the players, and Espada a lot of credit because this easily could have been a busted season, and instead of being a busted season,
pulled it in.
Yeah, they fought hard, they stayed consistent. They're like winners. Winning mentality isn't about winning and losing. It's staying consistent and fighting through, the adjustments you have to make to win in baseball, So I think this year did so much for that winning culture that the Astros have been in. It tells the young players, you don't pack it up. You keep making adjustments. We win here. We focus on winning. Even when we lose, we're focused on winning. And I think that culture is bleeding over into the Espada era now. And I think that's a huge sigh of relief for me, and something I point to in the future as to why this team, this window is going to be open still for a couple more seasons, because they're fighting. They're not. They got the winning culture still. They didn't lose it because of one bad season.
Right.
And a lot of teams, you see that happen, like Boston. The Red Sox. Sometimes you just kind of lose the culture a little bit, and you're like, we'll see them next year. But yeah, and on top of that, I think one of the things you were talking about Dana Brown too, and I think I worry about some of his deals. I'm concerned about maybe some trades and stuff, or some free agent signings, at times. But at the end of the day, I think the reason Dana Brown got the job, in my mind, and the reason why I'm a little optimistic about him, I'm not going to be like everything's going to be peachy keen, but like I'm a little bit optimistic because he is such a good talent scout and person in the draft. Our farm system is decimated. We don't have a lot of high prospects. We keep trading away prospects at the deadline to make our team competitive, So a lot of our prospects get traded away very quickly, and all of his draft picks have been amazing. I really like his talent scouting and draft picks. That's
true. That's a good point.
Because of that, I think, even if, let's say, I'm going to be pessimistic. Let's say that he starts putting his stamp on the team, and it doesn't jive with Jim Crane. It's apparent that this isn't the way to go. By that time, hopefully, he will have us enough prospects from the draft that we can build going forward. And I'm hoping he can rebuild that farm system with a little bit more talent, because we're good at talent development, but sometimes, you can't bank on a Christian Javier or a Jose Urquidy all the time, like, a Jose Altuve. These type of players don't just grow on trees. You have to find them. So yeah, I think if he keeps doing well in the draft, and perhaps, some of these trades or free agent acquisitions, we can see that they're actually building to something. I think I'm hopeful, if nothing else, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think the farm system is as bad as everybody thinks they are.
Well, it's also...
Which is fine.
It is fine. I agree.
I think I'd rather people think that than not think that.
It's like
They're so bad. Why are we getting so many giving so many good players away? Because we've got them to trade.
Yeah. It's kind of like the stock market, Joe. There's going to be people on the East Coast and the West Coast that tell you how good things are and how to evaluate them. But it's all perception, and it's all business. It's all one businessman telling another businessman how to evaluate their business, but they're doing it in the media, and we can all see it. So it's like, it's all, I do like that we're ranked lower and people devalue the farm, because I do think there's a lot of talent there. But a lot of our talent is raw talent, and it takes years to develop. Some of the guys that he's drafted have been guys out of college that he could just trade away for Justin Verlander, or it's just like they're kind of ready to be traded. Some of the guys that he's getting, and that
Yeah, I felt bad for Justin this year. By the way, he just kind of imploded a little bit with that injury.
Yeah, he needed more time. He really did. He needed more time to get right. And, I mean, it's kind of scary, Joe. With all these pitcher injuries, I do think the way baseball is going to be going forward is, like, you have 5 injured pitchers and 5, like, healthy pitchers. Because it wasn't just us. The Dodgers had the same situation. There's been a lot of teams that, like, had 3 to 4 starting pitchers injured all season long.
I wonder this, if more teams were going to take AJ Hinch's approach to this kind of this confusion approach where he's using a lot of different guys and he's not letting people know when they're coming in. And he's like, 2 innings, 2 or 3 innings apiece. I think there's something that seems to be working for him on that. I thought it was probably pretty brilliant.
I love it.
And so if you did it with a team that maybe doesn't have as much talent, that's one thing. But you do it with a team with talent, then you're saving arms.
Yeah.
I thought it was brilliant.
I love it. It's very non-traditional, but I think guys like AJ Hinch that are willing to look at the game in a little bit of a sideways way, I think that creates new ways of doing things, or even if it's bringing back an old way of doing things and doing it new. I would like to see the Astros deploy a little bit of a bullpen game every now and then. They did like 1 or 2 this past season, like kind of, right. AJ Hinch style games. But I'm with you. I would like to see more of it. I'd like to see how it works out with a team with more talent. There are times that teams do it in the World Series because like everything's bigger, so just who doesn't matter who goes in. It'll be just wild. But I'd like to see that deployed to kind of save some arms in the regular season. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. They're so worried about arms these days. They go 5 or 6 innings. They think that's something. It was never like that.
But yeah, it was. What you're saying is it wasn't always like that. Like Nolan Ryan would pitch a crazy amount of innings. Like a lot of people would pitch a crazy amount of innings. And one of the things people point to is that athletes were just not as the opponent's athletes. Like if you're a high-end athlete like Nolan Ryan, you probably could have pitched in any era, hands down, But maybe the batters he was facing weren't quite as intimidating as some of the batters now, or like nowadays, one of the things that is valued is torque. So a lot of these pitchers are going out there and they're putting these crazy spins on the ball and like kind of ruining their elbows and their wrists and their shoulders trying to really generate spin. Because analytics, you get those analytics back, and the higher spin rate you have, kind of the more the teams are interested in you.
Right.
So
it's speaking of pitching, like the fact when they brought Kikuchi in and they made a couple tweaks to the way he pitches,
mm-hmm.
That was amazing to think how smart their pitching staff is. That was brilliant.
We have.
I mean.
Yeah.
I was so impressed with that. I was like, and that guy did really, really well. I wish he would stay, but I don't think they can afford him. But
right. I think sadly he pitched himself into a new tax bracket, So we might not be able to afford.
Go to Los Angeles and be with his buddy.
He might, yeah. I mean, honestly, it seems like they just print money out here. I wouldn't be surprised. But I do think. I love that because our pitching coaching is amazing. It's been that way for a while, but yeah, they really didn't do anything too much besides tell him to lean on one pitch more than the other, and to work on his sequencing. Let's do a change up here.
He listened. He wasn't all uppity about it. He was a really humble guy, I thought.
I loved Yusei Kikuchi. I was a little skeptical. I even said on the podcast, I said we were going to get a mediocre pitcher at the trade deadline, and we got a mediocre pitcher, and I was worried about it. I couldn't even take my own advice. Yeah, I was worried.
Oh, really?
But yeah, he was great because I was like, the philosophy is we can't afford a lot, so they're going to have to kind of go in the bargain bin, find somebody that they could improve on, kind of Garrett Cole style, but obviously not Garrett Cole's talent, and that's what we're going to do, is just try to find a guy we can improve his game. And yeah, he's fantastic. I mean, we wish we could have used him in the playoffs, but that's just how it goes, Sometimes you run into a problem, and the Astros ran into the Tigers, which created a huge problem for them. But one of the biggest storylines going into this offseason is going to be Alex Bregman. How do you think that the Astros are going to be able to re-sign him?
I hope so. I kind of hope he kind of takes a cue from some of the other guys that have left Houston, because like Correa and Springer, I mean, those guys went to teams that were marginal,
Mm-hmm.
and they made a lot of money.
Yeah, they're not making a lot of playoffs.
I don't know if they may have to pay state taxes where they are.
Yeah.
But they're not in teams that have the same kind of winning culture. And to me, once you get past a certain amount, it's not that big a deal. The only reason I could see him wanting to go someplace for a lot of money is so he can just continue to afford his horse racing habits.
Yeah. I do think if we have a horse in the race, we have to hope that Arizona doesn't want him. I think like family. I think about like his horses. I think Arizona might be a tough one if Arizona gives a comparable package that the Astros give him. Or, I did hear that the most years that the Astros will give him is 6 years. That will be the longest contract they offer him. So I kind of worry, too, if there's some crazy team out there, like, I don't know, maybe the Padres or the Yankees or something, offer him like an 8 or 10 year contract just to kind of spoil the market a bit.
He can get all in New York he wants here.
Yeah, I don't think he would want to play there. I'm just saying, I think if they just bring a cash truck to his house, maybe he'll see the dollar signs and make that choice.
Well, Roy Oswalt and Paul Wall came out, I think today or yesterday, both lobbying for us to keep him.
Yeah, I hope we keep him too.
There's a lot of people lobbying for it.
I do think though, if we do keep Bregman, the next question we'll be having is, can we then keep Fromber and Tucker? At some point, we don't want to completely become the Dodgers or the Yankees in terms of payroll. We want to make sure we're paying our guys, but at some point, you're like, one of these players isn't getting a contract. And I think one of the three, minimally, maybe two of the three, between Bregman, Fromber, and Tucker, will be tough to re-sign. I don't know how I rank them.
I'm worried about it. I'm worried if Tucker really wants to be here. He's a hard guy to read because he's so nonchalant about everything.
Yeah, he's very casual.
He's just so laid back.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see him wanting to go play for Tampa or something, which is kind of his hometown.
Yeah, I think that's our biggest enemy there to re-sign him. I think he'd want Tampa.
Yeah, and I think. I want to know what we're going to do about our first baseman. That's.
Well, I've been worried about that since. Yeah, I think I've been worried about first base since 2021. When Yuli started to age a little bit. I always loved Yuli. I think we could have had him an extra season, obviously, and been okay. Yeah. But that also is neither here nor there now. It would have been a bad contract either way. But I think I was optimistic. Like in 2020, 2019, I was pushing for them to put Yordan at first. Way back, I was like, put Yordan at first. Get that big guy on first base. Don't have him running around too much. And now I don't know. I don't think there is a person in the farm system or on the team right now that is your long-term first baseman in any kind of way. I was hoping John Singleton would get more play and find more power, but I think him battling Abreu and him struggling a little bit against left-handed pitching, his season wasn't exactly what I was hoping for, but he had a good season. It's just he's not the long-term solution.
I think he's better off the bench.
He's a great pinch hitter.
Yeah, exactly.
He really is. I was just hopeful maybe he'd be found money, and he would really kind of take that position, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. It's not like I have every single Astros minor league team in the back of my head, but I don't see anybody that's really been projected to be a first baseman starter. So I don't know if we're kind of looking at free agency and stuff. It's kind of another. I'm nervous that we'd overpay for something that might not be the best solution.
I've done it before.
Yeah, I mean, I think Crane won't ever do another Abreu. The Abreu contract was signed by Jim Crane when there was no general manager. That was a really Jerry Jones decision by him.
Yeah.
And I think he learned, this is a tough thing to do. Sign baseball players, So I don't think that they will find another aging player and sign it too much of a contract. But I do worry that, I don't see a solution out there, and that's kind of why I worry about Bregman as well. Like, if Bregman doesn't re-sign, there's really not a solution in free agency or in our system right now that I feel comfortable with. And it'd be really tough to have a season with your corner infielders being question marks.
Yeah. And Bregman, this was his first Gold Glove, was it not?
I think so. I think Chapman has always been in front of him up until this season.
He's a remarkable third baseman. He comes down that third base line and barehand stuff almost every game. He's incredible.
Our defense in the infield had been incredible for so long that we took it for granted. Having Correa at shortstop and Bregman at third just essentially meant no balls got past them. Like, they were an incredible pairing there. And Jeremy Pena is no slouch either. He had a bad defensive year this year, but
yeah, he didn't do great.
But you can tell a lot of that stuff is fixable. A lot of that stuff is just, he had the yips for a couple weeks, like he just had to get out of his head and work through it, he'll be fine. But he's still, there's a difference between a platinum glove winner like Carlos Correa and a gold glove winner like Jeremy Pena, So if now we go from Jeremy Pena and Shea Whitcomb at third base, you saw poor Shea had 4 errors in one game,
I didn't want to bring that up. I was so embarrassed for that kid.
Well, to make it up, he actually won minor league player of the year, and he won the MVP of the championship game in minor league baseball the next day.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. So he made up for it.
On a mission to redeem himself.
Yeah.
I think I was at that game. I was at that game.
That's a tough one, then. Yeah, that was a tough game.
It was hard to watch.
Yeah, everybody was a little happy from the night before.
You just felt bad for him.
Yeah, and it's one of you see his eyes get bigger and bigger, and it's one of those things, man, where, whether it's a professional game or like a pickup basketball game, the sports universe will point you out if something's going wrong, and you'll just keep making the same mistake over and over again. It's just how the universe works sometimes. Yeah. But I think with all that being said, as much as Shea Whitcomb could be, I think he's a professional player. He'll find he'll be able to play baseball. It just was a bad game, but I don't think he's a long-term solution at third base either for the Houston Astros. So yeah, I mean, I think
it's hard to say, man. Sometimes these guys surprise you, but you just, there's always whoever thought Brock Purdy was going to be such a great quarterback.
Yeah, not me. Of course, I thought he wasn't even a real player. I thought he sounded like a made up name or something. I was like, oh, Handsome Jimmy and Brock Purdy. Those sound like made up football players' names. But yeah, you never know with a lot of these prospects. They have so much raw talent, and they're playing at such a high level, and we're just sitting back and judging them based off of an eye test. So a lot of these guys I could be completely wrong about. So I'd love to be able to see the Astros just reach in their back pocket and find another prospect and be like, we also have this guy. That would make me very happy. But I'm not trying to. I think the Astros next season is going to be just like it was this season in the sense that it will be a battle for the AL West, but they still will be in contention. I think they're going to still be a contending team. I think Espada, Brown, and Crane will really work to keep this team competitive. But there are.
We start out next year against the Mets, first 3 games.
Yeah.
At home.
Yeah. And I'm excited about that. I think the Mets provided us a challenge this season, and I think the Astros are going to be ready to go out there and perform.
Yeah.
Or they'll.
Look at what? Oh, they're playing at LA in July 4th. That would be a fun one.
Oh man, 4th of July fireworks. Be a crazy game, but yeah, we'll definitely have to keep a look on that, Joe. But yeah, man, I guess for me, I'm still very much optimistic about this Astros team. I've never really wavered on them calling their golden era over or anything like that. I know it stinks not to be able to match or beat Atlanta's record, but we've been spoiled by so much good baseball that now if they play good baseball and get to the playoffs, we're kind of disappointed. Like we're so spoiled, we need them to go far, which is not the baseball team I supported growing up. I was, just happy that they were good some days,
Exactly.
But
they've been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. I'm going to say, there's a lot of things that can happen over the winter. There's a lot of things that will happen, but I'm confident enough to say this early on that the Astros will still be around. They'll still be making some noise for the AL West next season. It's just going to be a different team, and it's going to feel a little bit different than it did, with A.J. Hinch and Dusty Baker. This is just a new era, and I think it's kind of like like a lot of dynasties, like the Pats or the Chiefs, what you have to do is you kind of have to rebuild as you're going. You can't take a season off. You're rebuilding and finding pieces as you go, and that's transitional, and that means things will feel a little weird at times. So I'm hoping this was just a transitional year for us, and next year we don't feel quite as tight.
I think we'll be playing a little bit more small ball next year.
Yeah.
I think we'll a little bit more aggressive on the bases.
Yeah.
I think
you're right.
There's going to be, a little. I mean, we still have power, but I think we're going to need it.
Yeah, we're going to need more manufacturing. They tried to be more aggressive with the base running early this season. I think injury concerns and just, lack of the speedster guys actually getting on base kind of curtailed those aggressive base running philosophies. But I mean, Yordan Alvarez was running the bases like a madman this season. Like he stole some bases. He had some aggressive base running. I think they're going to get more aggressive next season. I think you're right.
Yeah, I don't think he's a good first baseman though. Personally, I don't know. I could be wrong, but he just doesn't seem like all that stretching and stuff that you have to do at first base.
Oh no, Yordan. I think nowadays with all the knee injuries and stuff, it would be a bad call. Back in the day when he was first coming up, I was like, put the guy at first base. But yeah, now that I've seen his mobility and now that I see what his knees are like, I'm like, you can put him in left every 5th day, but let's keep this guy around for the season.
Yeah, maybe he can pitch.
That'd be fun. You know what? Just kind of like, just for one game, let Yordan pitch and Mauricio be the catcher, so Mauricio gets to play all the positions.
Yeah, I was really hoping he'd get to at least play 8 this year. Yeah, I think he only made it to 7.
Yeah, I think he didn't quite get there. One season I think just for fun. You let Mauricio pitch an inning when a game's got away and let him take a couple. Take an inning at a half inning at catcher. That'd be funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, dude.
I think that's your mom's favorite player.
Mauricio? Yeah, Doobie.
Yeah. She calls him Mijo.
Yeah, he looks like he's our cousin. He really does. Like,
he looks really, really young. Yeah, we sat next to a girl who grew up with him. I think at one of the Sugarland games when we actually I bought these random tickets to see the Sugarland minor league team, and that was and it happened to be when Altuve was rehabbing there.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was cool.
That's really cool.
It was totally random.
You'll definitely, I think the next time we have you on the podcast, I'd love to talk about that minor league stadium too, because being able to go to a minor league game in the city where the major team is essentially too, that's pretty dope. I'm glad the minor league team's right there, so you could just catch a rehab game.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to go to the one in Corpus Christi because that's at Whataburger Field. I've heard that's a really great one too.
Yeah, we have great.
That's a double-A team.
Yeah, we have great minor league teams. I definitely like to check that one out in Corpus too. But Joe, I really appreciate taking up so much of your time. I think this is going to be a great podcast. I'm glad that we were able to finally sit down and do this and talk some Houston sports. I could already tell you right now, the listeners that I know of, they've been waiting for me to have somebody on. This is going to be one of my, I know they're going to love this episode, so we're going to have you back soon to talk some Houston Texans, Houston Astros, or Houston Rockets.
Love to do it. I'd like to talk maybe after the Texans get to the playoffs.
There we go. Sounds great. All right, Joe. Well, I'll talk to you soon, man. And that's going to do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We appreciate you. This is a small podcast, so please smash those buttons for me. Like, rate, review, subscribe, share, bop it, skip it, all of those things. Please just hit all of the buttons available for me and share this podcast with other Houston fans, other people that you know would appreciate the pod. Thank you so much to Joe Jacobs for being on the show today. Really appreciate having a guest. It was such a fun conversation. I hope you appreciate this different format for this episode, folks. Definitely check out the Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com. Check out the full blog experience there. Remember, you can reach out on social media at Space Cadet Sports on Instagram and Threads, or at Paul Salazar Jr. if you want to reach out to me personally, or you can call in, quote unquote, leave a voicemail to the podcast. That's going to be on SpeakPipe, speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports. Once again, that's let me actually enunciate here. Speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid, and as always, vamos Houston.